Okay, guys, before I get started, obviously the title is Rigging in Business, but disclaimer, I'm not a business advisor. I've been rigging a long time and I've been dealing with business for a long time, but when I started rigging, my first year into my rigging business, I left GQ Parachute, started a rigging business. I made £10,000 worth of sales. My costs were £10,000. Not a good career move at all on that moment. But what I did at that moment then was I went downtown and got business advisors to come in and talk to me, tell me what I should be doing within my potential business. And they was dynamite. Within the next year, I had a regular business advisor come in every month, talk about what we're doing, how we're developing and how we're moving forwards. My fifth year in business, we made £480,000 worth of sales and 40% profit margin. So that business advice was crucial. It focused me on what I need to be doing to earn a living from business. So what I'm going to do now is talk about some of the things that I've learned over the years and what I think riggers should be doing. The reason I'm doing this talk now is because I came back from Holland, and when I was in Holland, we're charging 95 euros for the repack, and I came back to the UK and they're like, you're charging 40 quid for a repack, and I was honestly shocked, because when I left the UK, I was charging £55 a repack 20 years ago. So I was really shocked, and obviously somebody said, yeah, but AFF rates haven't gone up either. And then I said, customers won't pay that. Well, that's a bit I don't agree with. Customers will pay what you charge them, and I'm going to go through some of that bits now. That's the reason I decided to do the talk today. Bit about me, though. Obviously, I started off in the... here we go. I started off in the Army. I was on the Red Devils. I joined GQ Parachutes. My first job was making a suspended harness for the team. I got involved with Sky Science, and that was my first rigging business. When it was, I then wanted to add on kit sales, jumpsuit manufacture, and then I got into TV. So I started to grow it from there onwards. I then opened Skydive Spain. I was in Holland, rigging, again, AFF and TV. And now Skydive Specialist is my current job. I specialise, my backup plan is now my main job, and rigging is now my backup plan if I lose a film job. So your roles change around. So to me, it was business first, and then it was what I actually do in the business, and go from there. When I left the Red Devils, I joined GQ Parachutes, made the same suspended harness, but for the military. So my career wasn't really changing much. Obviously, I've got British, American, Dutch qualifications, so I've travelled around a little bit. So I've seen what other countries do, and that's what I wanted to try and pass on today, basically just a bit more experience of what other people do. All right, a long time ago, Mick Thurman said to me, why do you want to be a rigger? I said, well, to make some money, to have a rigging business. And he just laughed, said, nobody makes money from rigging. And he had a point. Rigging is like a secondary job. You add it on to increase your salary from what you're already earning. Well, I didn't agree with that, but, so that's why I got into it. But there are a few things to consider, but how you run a rigging business is, what are the legal matters? Are you a sole trainer? Are you a limited company? Do you need an accountant? Don't you need an accountant? I decided to be a limited company because I wanted that protection for me, and also for a lot of the reasons. So that's how I set it up. A lot of people are sole trader, and if something went wrong and so you got sued, then your whole house and car and everything you own can go with it. As a limited company, the business can close, but you've still got everything you own personally. So to me, limited company made total sense, and I go from there. I've got an accountant because, obviously, believe it or not, when I argue the case about parachutes deteriorate, like computers do, the taxman says, no, it doesn't. But the accountant said, actually, yeah, there's a rule here that does. So every year, my parachute deteriorate, and I make sure I put that back into the business to reduce your tax liability and everything else. So sometimes it's worth having a good accountant. Now, we all have different structures. Right? Have you got a workshop? Have you got a facility? If you have, then you can set yourself up as a very professional rigging facility that people can come, and then you have to treat it like a business, because then suddenly you've got overheads that you don't get when you're working from home. Working from home is just as good as long as you've got the facilities to do the job you need to do. What are your liabilities? You know, if somebody walked into your house and tripped over and sued you, you've still got to have insurance, even if it's at home. It makes no difference from whether you've got a business. So think about your liabilities, think about your risks, and think about the cost. All this should come together. It's not about doing a friend a favour anymore. You know, yeah, I'll pack your reserve, give me 30 quid, I'll pack you a third. If something goes wrong, suddenly he's not your friend. He's going to sue you. What fallback have you got? So it's a business. You have to look at it as a business, not as a buddy-buddy system. That's one of the points I'd learned a long time ago. And then marketing. If you're charging for a product, are you just word of mouth? Are you just telling people, yeah, I'm a rigger, I'll pack your reserve for you. Oh, I'm an advanced packer, I can do that for you, just give me a few quid here and there. Or have you got other expenses? Are you advertising in the magazine? Have you got a website? A website takes a lot of effort, a lot of money, and a lot of time to create. So it's time you put into it, you should be getting paid for. Right? So social media, are you spending time on social media to promote yourself, sell yourself? You know, and you've got to decide how you fit into the business structure. So for me, I look at all my costs first before I look at the pricing. My cost means I need insurance, I have to pay for accountant, I'm a limited company, I am doing advertising, and I've got a workshop. So I add all that in, I look at all my costs, then I decide what I'm going to charge. I don't decide, well, he's charging 45 quid, I better charge 45 quid. Can't make a living that way. I did that in the beginning, but then I started to think business-wise and changed it with all the business advice I received. So you think about everything you're putting into it, your cost considerations. Obviously, my new website is all about the TV and film work, but I've still got rigging, I've still got everything else I'm doing on there and all the rest. Go from there. I look at the bigger plan. Right? Now, to me, the bigger plan is I look at lost leaders. Now, a lost leader to me is if I spend 30 minutes talking to a customer about their equipment, I've lost 30 minutes of my working time. That's a lost leader. I'm like, I have to put up with that because I need that customer. Well, you don't. Add it into your price structure. So go from there. Is it a second income? Can I charge less because it's a second income, you know, and everything else? So I look at the whole structure because I look at everything down to the amount of hours you put into a job and then what you're going to get out of it at the end of the day, the end of the week, and the end of the month. Well, go from there. All right. Pricing and time management. To me, I work on 5 days a week, 9 to 5. Who works 5 days a week, 9 to 5 anymore in rigging business? You can't make money doing that. But if you price your goods for that time span, if you work overtime, you should get paid overtime, just like any other job. The way it should be, you know. So I price everything based on 5 days a week, 9 till 5. What work can I do in that time? Can I pay my monthly bills and all the extra costs you've got as a rigger? And go from there. So what I've got here is I do a quick spreadsheet. I look at the spreadsheet, I thought, all right, you know, I've got 2 hours to do reserve repack. If I charge £55, the ex-VAT is £45, which is apparently what a lot of people are charging now. Well, I'm VAT registered, so I have to charge VAT. So for me, it's £55, but I know I'm only getting 45. Rigging work, you know, I do some rigging work, I do some advanced rigging work, I've got different prices. So if I had this price structure, I then look at it and think, well, how many repacks I can do, how much rigging work hours I'm going to do, and I put it into a little spreadsheet so I can work out how much I'm going to get per month, how much I'm going to get per year. And that then tells you whether you're on the right track or not. On this particular case, I'm like, you know, if I did 240 repacks a year, 480 repacks a year, I'm like, great, yeah, look what I'm earning, £15,000 or thereabouts a year. And I'm like, well, that's ridiculous, you know. I look at the figures, they don't make sense. Now, to me, most I've ever done in 1 year is 350 repacks. That's the most I've ever done in a year. Has anyone ever done more than that? I bet you do. Right? That's my limit, right? And then I was like, this is not fun anymore. This is not what I did join this sport for. I put it down, I don't do any more than 200 repacks when I was in business. So no, this is all I'm going to do. Now, if you ask somebody now how many repacks you do a year, and somebody say, I do 500, I'm like, you know, I'll take my hat off to you. That's not a nice job. That's too many reserves in a year. It's a lot of pressure, a lot of work, and you just can't sustain that properly. So I look at it, how much I'm going to earn a year based on how many repacks I can do. If it was just repacks, and go from there. And then I look at, you know, okay, I'll do some rigging work, add that on, you know, 18,000 a year. So I look at all my costs then, right? And I get down, I'm like, okay, these are all my costs. I've got electric, I've got rent a year, I've got marketing a year. So I look at my yearly costs from there. And this is what the business advisor taught me to do, right? Plan what you're doing, plan the amount of hours you can work out all your costs, and then work out your salary from there. So my salary is cut off on there now, based on these figures, was £18,000 a year, right? I'm like, well, that's not enough, you know, and that's charging £45 a repack, and that's charging, you know, £41 an hour for rigging work, etc. I'd be like, nah, I'm not happy with that. I need something else on top. So you look at the average per year, and that's not taking into account all the wastage. You know, if you're not working for 3 hours on one day, you've lost all that. If that happens every day, you've lost all that as well. So suddenly your wage gets less. So I take this little spreadsheet and I'll make some changes. The first things, you know, if somebody said I want it done by tomorrow and it's late Friday afternoon, yeah, I'll do it, 30 quid, 30% on top. It's a rush order fee. Manufacturers charge it. Why can't riggers charge it? Why can't advanced packers charge it? Out of sociable hours, I'll drop the kid off at 5 o'clock. I'm like, well, I finish work at 5 o'clock, you know. All right, yeah, I'll charge you 30% extra. What? Well, drop it off at 2 o'clock or it's 30% extra. Suddenly they treat you now like a business, because when things go wrong, they will treat you like a business. So you have to have that same frame of mind. If it's a buddy thing and he's coming around for a few beers, dropping his rig off, it's a separate thing. We all do that. I've still got buddies. I'm still working on their kit. And I'm like, right, guys, you're getting the beers in. It still happens. We all know this. But at some point, you've got to say it's a business and go from there. The mates rates, everybody asks me for mates rates. I don't have time for mates rates anymore. But there's times you do, and you do deal with them. And then what you're getting back in return is, you know, you keep a good mate. But what I found out when I started packing reserves, everybody's your mate. As soon as I went business-wise, said this is a business, I'm sorry, mate, I've got to earn a living here, I've got to charge 45 quid for this repack and things. And like, suddenly those mates vanished. They didn't want to pay the 45 quid. I'm like, well, they're not really mates, are they? You know, I was happy to see them go, and I got new customers in. And what it turns out was I ended up having a business manager I hired. He changed the way we market. He changed the way we did things. Suddenly, I got a massive amount of new customers. I'd lost all my old customers, right? And I'm like, wow, this is a change. We're earning the same money. Something's gone wrong with this plan, right? So to get all this business advice in was nice. Now, if I'd have carried on doing with my old customers and he'd have got my new customers, I'd have doubled up the workload. So advice is good if it's relevant for what you're doing at the time. Right? So go from there. So mates rates, you might lose some customers, but then you might get some more of the ones that are willing to pay more. So you've got to be business mind on that side. I then change a few figures, right? Well, simple. Let me put it up to £70 for a reserve repack. Let me put my rigging costs up to 61. And I'm like, now I go through the same costs. I'm like, now I'm earning 37 grand a year. I'm like, oh, I can live off that now, but I can live off that now. And I'm like, so that's what I should be doing. And then somebody says, you can't charge £70 for a reserve repack. I'm like, yes, I can. People won't pay it. Okay, I'll do something else. So I have a backup plan. So it's the way I look at it. I look at the spreadsheets and the cost first, see how I can deal it throughout the year. So I'm like, no, that's what I'm doing. Now, when I left Holland, we're charging €95 a repack. I got used to that. Customers pay it, they don't complain at all. I came to the DZ in the UK, we charge 40 quid. I was like, what? How can you make a living doing that? No, customers won't pay more. Now, I go back 20 years ago, when I set up Sky Science, it was £20 a repack. I'm like, oh, I need to charge 30. And then after my first year, I put it up to 55. Now I'm charging 55 when everyone else is paying 15 or 20. And everyone said, you're never going to get that. It's impossible. Nobody pay it. The reality was, over the next couple of years, I hired 2 extra riggers to keep up to date with the reserve repacks. I couldn't do them myself. So I was the most expensive rigger in the UK. I was charging twice as much as anybody else, and I'm getting a lot more work. But what I was doing on the customer relationships to get that work, I was educating my customers in a different way. I said, right, yeah, I'm going to spend 3 hours on this. This is what I'm going to do. Do you have any problems with your kit during the year or during the previous 6 months? All right, put your rig on your back, do a live pull. What's that? Oh, that's really nice. Oh, right, do a live pull. Oh, it didn't work. What are you doing? And the guy's, well, I pulled it. Well, you haven't, because you're going to die unless you do something now. And he's like, well, what do I do? Well, if you can't work it out on the ground, you're not going to work it out in the air, you know? And now I was educating my customers, right? And I took it. I'd always get them to pull a reserve. Nobody else was doing that. They just take the rig and go. But that was my way. But I got to know my customers. And when I finished, I did the work. I gave it them back. I spent more time with them. I got to know my customers. Right, this is what we've done. That's what you wanted. This is it. Great. And go. Before their reserve was due a repack again, they'd get an email from me saying, your reserve's due in 2 weeks' time. When do you want to book it in for? Oh, shit, Alan, thanks for letting me know. I'll bring it down on Monday. So I had that diary system, reminder system. it really works. You get those customers back because you keep in touch with them. You put the personal touch in, and you give them a little bit more than what everyone else is doing. But you have to think what you want to give them. That's the way I look at it. So I look at that and I thought, well, that's my repack prices, and I'm not going to change it for anybody. But I don't need rigging as my daily living now. I did back then, but this is what I did 20 years ago. When it was my bread and butter, I put the price up. It won't kill your business. It's what you do with the work that makes a difference. And you go from there. Right. So when I put my prices, high prices now, I look at the outcome. So I'm like, my lower prices, I think, I put it up 20%. I'm down to 30,000 now instead of 38. Well, could I live with that? Yeah. How many customers are going to lose? I've got 20% less customers. Well, that's 20% less work for a little bit less money. I look at it, if I lose 50% of my customers, I'm getting 18,000 a year now. The same as if I was charging £45 a repack, but I've lost 50% of my customers. So I'm doing half the work, but getting the same money as if I was charging a lower price. And that's the way I look at it and think, well, okay, can I survive losing 50% of my customers? I can, because the other 50% are paying me more money, and I'm doing less work, and now I've got more time to spend on the quality of the reserve repack, the inspection, the paperwork, the customer relationships. I never do a rush job, you know, is that it? So if I did 4 reserve repacks in a day, that was unique. I did 2 in a day. I do 3 in a day maximum, you know. If you do more in a day, you can't have the quality. You can't be doing it properly. That's the way I look at the job. So I do break it down and look at the price structure. And if I lose customers, it's a business. If they're costing you money, or they're putting pressure on you that you've got to reduce your quality, or you're rushing to do the next day job, believe me, the customer knows. They'll pick a reserve up, they come to the drop zone, yeah, so-and-so did this, but it was a really rush job, and, you know, they fit it in last minute and everything. They know. So they haven't got the confidence they've had as well. And they talk about it and tell everybody else. So what I say is, you drop your rig off on a Friday, you get it back on a Monday, and you get it back on a Friday. If they bring it in the same day and want it the same day, I'm like, yeah, I'll charge you 50% on top. Because I know they're going to waste my time. And I know that then I've got to spend time talking to them, dealing with it and everything else. But I'll charge 50% on top. I will spend that time with them if they want to do it. I've had customers who come in and say, yeah, I just want to be curious. I want to be sure, a bit nervous, not a problem. I'm going to spend more time with you, 50% on top, happy paying that, great. All right, let's go through it. So you set the business boundaries first, and then you go on to the next stage. So that's the way I look at it. If you lose customers, can you afford to lose those customers? Now, okay, skill level. Right, well, skill isn't cheap, but what am I putting down here? I look at an advanced packer then. If if you're doing a 2-hour repack, and I base it on a 2-hour repack, because once you're doing the safety notices, once you do all the paperwork, once you've done the repack, put it together, the time you're spending with the customer, if you do that in less than 2 hours, I don't know how. That's the way I look at it. So I break it down to an hour. £22 an hour you're earning. All right, well, what did it cost you to qualify? Yeah, how long did it take you to qualify? The effort you've put in getting this skill and this qualification, you should be valued for it. So I look at the prices, and then I look at who are the competition. You know, what's a painter get? What's a builder get? No, I'm like, an electrician, £50 an hour. I'm like, well, my job as a rigger, as a reserve packer, that's as good as an electrician coming in and changing a few fuses. So where you look at it like that. So where do I fit into the scale of everyone else, right? Actually, no, I'm more like a mechanic because I'm an advanced rigger. You know? So I've got the same qualifications as a mechanic, so I should be earning what a mechanic earns. Right? That's how I value my time on a reserve repack. Obviously, I haven't got to the lawyer stage yet, but it would be nice to get to that stage. But you've got different levels of what you do per hours. Now, where do you value your time? Yeah. Well, I think rigging is as good as being a car mechanic. You spend just as long training, getting qualified. It's a very safety-orientated industry, like a car mechanic is. They've got to keep you safe. Rules and regulations, they've got safety notices, we've got safety notices. So where do you think you fit in? If you're a labourer and say, I'm just labouring, and I'm happy getting a labourer's wage, that is your choice. And that is your way of doing things. I go from there. Now, There's always someone willing to do it cheaper, right? Always. But, you know, are you getting the quality? That's the way I look at it, you know, and it is. So, now, the diary system to me is gold dust. If you don't have a diary and book things in at certain times, then you're always going to be rushing. You're always going to be trying to keep up with the next job, keep up with the customer. If you've got a diary and say, no, this is a booking system, and follow it and stick to it, you're going to earn more money, you're going to waste less time, and it really does work. I cannot run a business without the diary and the booking system any longer. So I plan it in. So I'll look at, okay, at 9 o'clock on Monday, you know, I've got a javelin booked in. 11 o'clock, I'll do the vector. 2 o'clock, I'll do the atom. Right, that's going to earn me 135 quid. What else have I got to fit in that day? Is 135 quid in my business plan. This is what you're going to have for yourself, like, you know. Okay, and then by the time I get to Thursday or Friday, I don't book anybody in for Friday because I know there's always an overflow. You never want to leave a customer hanging. I'm sorry, I couldn't get round to it. I'll get it next week or anything else. I use that time to do any rush orders, do any rigging administration, or do any marketing, you know. I actually make closure loops. I'll sit there, watch TV, I'll make all my closure loops up, and I'll make them up all different sizes, put them in a little box, and I've got like 50 different size closure loops ready to go at any stage, and I'll make them watching telly. Just forget about them and tie them up. Do the things. I'll come out later, and I'll put a bit of tension on every one. I'll put them in the little boxes, and I've got little measurements on the size of the closure loop. So I'm packing in reserve, I get it out, throw the closure loop away, get a brand new one out, and I'm ready to go. I'm not wasting time making it up there and then. I've done it during my relaxing time, so I should charge for it, but that's just the way I do it. But if you want to spend an hour or two at work just making closure loops, making your size up, but it saves time during the repack because then you can follow a system that works for me. So I have my diary system. I look at this, I'm like, yeah, I've got £370 I'm going to earn this week. £45 a repack or 65 for a Sigma, right? But then I put my new prices in, you know, and I'm like, well, actually, I charge 70 quid, I charge 15. Now I'm earning 790 a week. I'm like, now that makes a difference. Now, okay, I'll do this, but I'll stick to my diary, but I've charged the price based on the work I can do. And obviously, there's other things you add in and rigging and everything else. So when you're doing your price structure, you look at your costs, you look at what you can charge, and then you look at your booking in and your management system as well. Right? You don't just look at what the neighbour's doing. It never works in business. You obviously have to take that into account. Who are your competitors? What are they charging? But we're going to come on to that shortly. Right. The key thing is customer relationships, you know. Get to know your customers. Let them know when you're available. But what I do is I get to know my customers, what type of skydiving they're doing. You know, are they free flyers, are they belly flyers, are they speed flyers? Get to know what they're doing. Tell them anything you know about that industry. And obviously, as an instructor, I always want to check out the reserve drills as well and go from there. So you can get them on side by educating them and say, right, you know, reserve repack, you know, it's going to take me 2 hours, 3 hours, you know, so, you know, what do you get paid an hour if you get them that level? This is what I have to charge because I have to make a living from it. Suddenly, they respect you more. They respect you on a level that, yeah, they're paying for a professional service, not a buddy-buddy system, right? But it takes time to get that price to where you want it. So I never went from £20 to 55 overnight. What I did was the first year I was like, not making any money. Second year, I put it up a £5. Actually, 3 months later, I put it up another £5. 3 months later, I put it up another £5, you know. But within the time I'd done it, I'd put the price up to 55. And I said, sorry, I'm VAT registered. We've got to add the VAT on top as well, you know, and then you go from there. So I built the price up over time. It wasn't a sudden massive shock, but I never lost customers because of the way you have that customer relationships with them. They kept coming back, right? And that's why I end up hiring more riggers. So suddenly there's 3 of us working full time in a rigging shop, working through a diary system, working to 9 till 5, earning good money, and the customers coming back, they are paying for it. So when I go to the DZ and they say we're charging 40 quid, customers won't pay more, that's rubbish. That's not a business mind. You're not thinking business. It is not true, believe me, because I've been there, I've tested it, and you can educate it. But you have to educate your customers, what you're doing for them. You go from there. Right. Nowadays, I got a BMW, take it to the BMW garage for a service, forget it, bang. I get a message, yeah, we finished your inspection. I get a video of all the things on the inspection that's wrong. I was like, well, that's impressive. Now, this is customer service to a T, you know, it's top of the chain. They showed me the tyres with a measurement next to it. They showed me the exhaust, they did all that. And I thought, okay, the brake pads, and this is what we're doing. This is what we'd like to do. Do you give us approval to do the rigging work as such before we do the repack? You know, that's the way I was thinking. I'm like, yeah, you've got approval. I can see the problems. I can see the faults. Get onto it. And I'm thinking, I should add that into my business and rigging. So when I inspect someone's kit now, I find something wrong with the riser, I fix on that. I take a photo, put it on WhatsApp, I send them the photo. You know, in some cases, I send them a video to show them. Right, this is what work needs to be done. Do you want this work done? Yes or no? If they say no, I'm saying, well, sorry, I can't pack your reserve. So it's as simple as that. But if they say yes, which they always do, then you say, this is what it's going to cost. All right? Now, on the beginning of the week, the first thing I do is I know what rigs I've got, and I'll be like, right, let me inspect all the rigs. So on a Monday, all I do is I'll inspect every rig. I won't pack any. I'll inspect them all. I'll then do a worksheet for every single one. I'll then send everyone an email out. Whoever comes back first, that's the job I'm doing next, because I've already got approval to do the rigging work, the repair work, before I do the actual job. And basically, I'm educating them, and I'm showing them reality. They can't argue against what it is. So photo evidence and video evidence nowadays is crucial for me. I love it. I think it's brilliant. And then going back to them, and now they're like, oh, this is fantastic. They can see what you're talking about. And all of a sudden, they're like, hey, this is a service worth paying for. If they want a premium service, if they just want the cheapest repack going, you're going to lose that customer anyway. I offer a premium service, not a cheap service. So that's my view. What BMW was impressive, so I thought, I like that idea. So when they came back and showed, you know, the videos of the actual damage on the brake pads, and they measured everything, and I was like, they're telling me and they're showing me evidence. They're not just saying you need new risers. They show me why I need new risers, and then you can, oh yeah, okay, that totally makes sense, and then away they can go. And I never tell my customers this is what you've got to do. If you want a second opinion, get a second opinion. As an instructor, I always say never listen to one instructor. Get two, get three. Listen to three instructors. If none of them agree, you got a problem, to be honest, right? But generally, you'll get to what you find is the right answer, and it works. So I always ask for a lot of people. Same in rigging. Nobody's perfect. We've all got different opinions on different things. So I say, this is what I think. Get another rigger to check it, or we can get another rigger to check it. So it's great when you're working in an establishment with three riggers, because I'd be like, well, this is what I think. Like, do us a favour, check this, what do you think? And you can feed off other riggers. So if you've got that ability, it is great. I also had a system that anytime we hung up a can and we inspected it, a second rigger always came in, checked the rigging, signed that off, and then went back to their other job while that rigger's packing the thing. So if I've got more than two riggers working the same things, I always had that system, and I won't change it. So I won't change it now. Now I'm working from home, and I might do a repack here and there. I'd be like, yeah, okay, I can do this by myself. I hang it up, I do the inspection. Still got a hanging hoist in the house. Still do the full inspection, play it up, and I'll do it. I won't get a second rigger to check it. But if the second rigger is there, to me, it makes sense. You know, just get somebody else to check that. To be honest, I still do it in my house because we've got two riggers now. He does all the basic stuff, and I just signed. You can crack on, Alex. There you go from there. So that's why I haven't made a pilot chute in 20 years now, because I've got a kid that makes them for me. But another story. Anyway, the summary is, do your research. Not wrong, yeah? All right. Focus on the business itself, right? And time management. Time management is the key. If you haven't got the time management right, you're not going to get the price structure right either. And you're not going to earn the money that you want to earn as a business. Have a diary system. Book people in. Don't let them turn up at your house at 9 o'clock like last minute and then say, I need this tomorrow. I'll be like, it's annoying, frustrating, and they're not valuing you as well. So sometimes you have to think. What I did do at one point, because I lived across the road from my workshop, it was literally 20 feet from my workshop, everybody would come around the house. They knew where I lived. And in the end, I was like, right, 9 till 5, here's your price. So when I give them the reserve back, I give them a price list and say, oh, just note, by the way, after 5 o'clock, there's 30% on top next time, you know, and feed that into the system so they know it's a business and you're not invading your personal time. All right, identify time wasters. Now, picture should have came up there, but it's not there. All right, identify time wasters. Right, there's something there. Something didn't show in my slide. Right, this is important. Just give me a second. Yeah, I did, right. I don't know how it missed a slide. I'm going back to that. Can't show up. Okay, I'm just going to have to talk about it. It's missing 4 of my slides for some reason. Identify time wasters. What I mean by time wasters is people can waste your time. We all get that, and we have to spend time with them. But also the work you're doing, the time work. I used to make removable sliders. This is before anybody in the industry was making them. I'd make them for our cameramen. So our cameramen would film crew. They'd reach up, grab a slider, rip it off, and then they can film crew without the slider getting in the way. There wasn't such a thing as a removable slider at the time. I'm like, well, I can make that. I've got a nice Gucci design. It's perfect. One hand, rip it off, stick it on your jumpsuit, the way you go. Charge 70 quid to make this removable slider, you know? And then suddenly I get 1 order, 2 orders. Suddenly I'm getting 50 orders. Next time I'm getting 100 orders. I'm like, you know, now all of a sudden I'm making all these sliders, custom modifying people's kit for them to move. And then swoopers started coming in saying, I want a removable slider. And I'm like, I didn't want all that customers because the amount of time it took me to make a renewal slider was a whole day. It didn't fit into my business plan. So now it's a time waster. So I'm like, right, I've got to put the price up for my slider to £270. And then they're like, everybody said we still want them. Oh, I haven't got time for this, right? So then I was like, right, I put it up to £350. Everybody said they still want them. I'm like, I indented my time waster, and suddenly everyone's saying, yeah, but I still want it. And so they're willing to spend the money, but you've got to know the time it fits into your plan and everything else. And I'm annoyed that that slide's not playing now because you can see my removable slider, still the best one on the market. There you go. Anyway, that to me is a time waster. So I put the price up because what I could have earned while I was making a slider was a lot more by packing reserves. So it was a product time waster rather than just an individual person time waster as well. You go from there. Okay. It puts that slide up. I'm going to have one more attempt here. No, it's not showing it. Never mind. Anyway, we'll get by, as Ken has said. Have a backup plan. So I always have a backup plan. So when I do a business plan, I'm saying, this is what I earn, this is the amount of time I've got to put in. I'm like, what if I lose 15% of my customers? What am I going to do with my time? What if I lose all my customers? What am I going to do with my time? Now, at the time that I had this business advisor there, he's telling me what I should be doing. He said, what's your unique selling point? I was like, well, I ain't got a unique selling point. I've just packed reserves. No, you have. Find one. Make it. Find a business. Look at the industry. Look at what you do. So I was like, okay, well, you know, we jump parachute display flags. I make flag bags. I do all this. God, right, what else can you do? Well, you know, can make the flags. And then he's like, right, well, advertise them, market them and do them. So at the time we had 24 parachute display teams in the UK, all jumping flags that sponsors paid for. So I was like, okay, so my backup plan, if I didn't get the reserve repack in, was, right, I'm going to make flag bags, I'm going to make flags, and I'm going to market it to all the display teams. Wow, I got so much work from the display teams that the flags that was going through, I had no time for the reserve repacks, hence hiring more riggers, you know, and to do all that. So the backup plan suddenly earned me more money than the real plan, which is the reserve repacks and everything else. So I was saying, always have a backup plan. My backup plan was, I'm selling flags, I'm making flag bags, I'm doing that, and I'm charging 600 quid for a display flag because it comes with a bag. Sponsors will pay for it. Sponsor comes up, 200 square foot flags were giant flags in those days. The Red Devil started it. I started the first one with the Sun sponsorship, made a 200 square foot flag. That was a giant flag in those days. And now I was offering that to every display team. Now we're making 3,000 foot flags and flag bags this big, which I'm sending out and doing the door. They're paying 5,000 for, you know, 8,000 for, you know, depending on the artwork. So all of a sudden, yeah, I'm still making flags, still making flag bags, but the price is massive. The sponsors are still paying for it. So have a backup plan. What else can you do if you're not earning enough from the basic job? You go from there. Later on, my backup plan was, oh, I've just done a film job. Well, maybe I can market that more and get into the film industry. Well, my backup plan became my main job. I was earning so much from the film industry, I didn't want to pack a reserve again. and I was enjoying it because it's rigging and it's challenging. It was something different. So your backup plan may become your real job at some point. If it's an addition to your real job, then it's a bonus from there. But always think of a unique selling point. Why should customers come to you before they go to somebody else? What are you doing differently? I just packed a couple of reserves for a customer. I gave him his paperwork back, gave him the AAD manuals. This is what you should know by the manufacturer, because he's an old jumper and he's not really up to date with the AADs. And I said, I printed out a list of all the safety notices relevant to your kit. Well, yeah. And I've got a database, so I go on my database, print Talon 1992, and I got, 35 safety notices on the Talon 92. And it's just an index. I'll print it out, I'll give it them. And I've got a little tick, I've checked all them, they're not relevant. And he goes, oh, this is brilliant. And he's never seen it before. Suddenly he's like, wow, all the work you've done, he's willing to pay the extra money for. That was a buddy thing, but I'm not going to go there. Anyway, so and it's impressive. So when you do something they've not seen before, they want to come back to you. They're like, wow, look at this. This is what they're doing. Now, my Safe Note database, I started a long time ago. I've kept it up to date since. I'm the only one that's got a worldwide data notice. It's got every single manufacturer's safe notice and every single parachuter. It's got French and German, but they're all in there, and I can just do a search. I can print them out, and I just do a check on that easily. So it's reduced the amount of time I spent on safe notices, but I didn't want that just for me. I wanted my customers to know the work I put into this rig and the research I've done, the development I've done, and this is why I'm charging the price I'm charging now. So I'll print it out and I'll educate them, and they go away thinking, oh, this is brilliant, So I've got a small customer database now, and it's quite nice, customer database now. We'll go from there. So anyway, one of my slides came back. So in my first year, I was charging 25, more than the average person, and I started second year, I was charging 55. So that's how I put my prices up. We've got the, I'd always do the main inspection. I'd always tell them I'd done the main inspection, whether they wanted it or not, and I found this. So to me, it was my thing to do. And I know some people are doing that out there now still, but a lot of people aren't, right? I'd tell them about incident reports I found out that are relevant to their kit. All right, this is what's been happening a lot, and your kit is one of those things. So if they've got a teardrop with an RSL, for example, you come in and grab them reserve, and people are doing the reserve drills. It's great when you pull down, but when you bend forward and do this, the housing comes with you, and they're shocked. So you tell them something about their specific kit, and you educate them. They're really, really 100% on the side. They're going to tell somebody else. The word of mouth, people come back. So talk to them, educate your skydivers, talk about the incident reports. I'm sorry these slides have got mixed up now. I have no idea how they get out of sequence. Fucking things. But anyway, talk about the backup plan. So there's the display flags I made. And then I carried on making them. But then I started putting artwork on canopy. And when I started putting artwork onto parachutes, everyone said, you can't do that, it's a manufacturer's job. Well, I can do it, actually. I know what I'm doing. I've done a lot of them now. John LeBlanc came to my factory. He said he wants to stop doing them at PD. Could I make his canopy artwork, do all the canopy artwork and everything? He came to my workshop, and he was like, yeah, because we've got this laser cutter, it hides it up, and we have to charge so much, I'd rather outsource it. Well, I never had the facilities. Listen, I did the Red Devils. We did 22 Red Bull logos on the canopy. Yes, I did that because I wanted those equipment sales, but it took me 2 months to do them. I haven't got the facility to do that volume. So I'm like, John, you're on your own. But I'll still do them if they want to buy it off me, the canopy off you, bring it to me, I'll still add on the logo. So I started that. And I charged £1,000 to put a logo on the canopy. That was £1,000 I charged. Very simple. It's just printed out on F111 and you sew strips on. It's £1,000 price. People will pay it because the sponsors are paying for it. So you've got to look at who's paying you and what you're charging, and you're going from there. I look at the competition around the UK. There's a lot of good businesses in the UK, and those that have got websites, they're brilliant. It's what you want to see. It shows that they've got a professional attitude to what they're doing. So they've got a marketing shop, they've got a shop window. There's some good rigging workshops out there. So if I was in competition now, I'd be looking at the competition. I wouldn't be competing on price. I'd be looking at what they're doing and what else they're doing, and I'd compete in a different way. It shouldn't be price focused, unless you just want to work like mad for the week. That's where it caught up. Right. So then I got into the film work, and things changed over. But so I look at my backup plan, and now I'm looking at, right, my strategy is, what's my profit? That's my priority. If it's not profit in there, why are you spending time on it, right? So I look at it there. Is my pricing competitive? No, it's not. I don't want to have a competitive price. I want people to know that I'm better than everyone else. Or I want them to know that I'm going to give them a good service. That's what I want them to know. A premium service like BMW give to their customers. That's what I want to know. However, if you want to get into the market, if you're a brand new advanced packer and want to get into the market, then it's what's called a market penetration. You're like, all right, I'll charge £10 less than everyone else while I build up my database, while I build up my customer base. That happens, and nobody can stop that happening. Some people say, I'll charge 50% less than anybody else, you know? But then they get the next reserve. Then once suddenly they build up their workload, then they can start putting their prices up with everyone else. So it's called, you know, a market penetration. You've got to get into the market sometimes. So I understand why people are charging it low from there. Bundle pricing, you know, I'll say this is my repack system now is, right, I'll give you an annual service fee, right? This is what you pay for a year's service of your parachute equipment. It includes 2 reserve repacks. It includes main inspections. It includes brand new closure loops, elastic bands, everything else on each reserve repack, all the safe notices, paperwork and checks, a lot. But it's an annual policy. If you want to turn up and say, I just need a reserve repack, I don't do that. You know, you have to buy my annual policy system out. And if you do that, then you'll get your 2 reserve repacks in that. But on the 1st of January every month, you pay that service price. Throughout the year, I'll look after your kit, no problem at all. Anything extra like you have a reserve ride is on top of that price. So they've paid that annual price up front, and I've got it for the year. If they don't come back at the next reserve repack and do it with somebody else, no skin off my nose. I've been paid for both repacks, all right? But this is the way I set my mind up, and this is my diary system. So it is a service that I do differently to everyone else. So it's, oh no, I just need a reserve repack. I'm sorry, you know, go see Karen, she's at Langer, you know, just down the road, you know. So, I mean, I'm close to riggers now, so I can pass them on to somebody close by who will just do a reserve repack. I don't do that anymore, so that's what I think. So I do bundle pricing now. These are the safety notices. Obviously, I print out, you know, I'll print one out for each container. I'll put my contact details on, so they've always know where I am and can come back to me. I'll print out my list. I'll tick, yeah, that's been done, that's not relevant, that's been done. Every one of my customers gets one of these, all right, and then go from there. And if it's an Atom, for example, you know, mini riser inspection, yeah, I did check them, they conform to the safety notices. So that's one of my unique selling points that nobody else has done, which is, I can say, this is why I'm charging you more money for. You go from there. We did the time management, but that was the slider, for example. It started off at 45 quid. I then put it 175. Now, if you want one, it's £400. Right? So I'll make you one of these sliders now, but you're going to pay me £400 for it. I need to know your canopy size, and then I can build the slider in relation. I don't just say that's where your grommets end, we're going to extend it bigger. We go in between the difference from the grommet size to the material size, so we don't affect the deployment. We've got a system in place. But if you want a single-handed, one-handle remover slider, I reach up, grab it off, it stays in your hand, stick it down your jumpsuit. It's very quick and easy to put on. So I love it. Don't like making them. They are millimetre perfect. Literally, if they're 3 millimetres out, it doesn't work. So I charge the price accordingly, knowing that it's got to be spot on and perfect. John LeBock said we want to make removable sliders. He came to see me again. I was talking about this because he said, I got one. I showed him, and he bought one off me. I think he paid like 45 quid at the time. He bought one off me. I was like quite happy I sold one to John LeBlanc from PD. Well, 4 years later, they come up with their own mover slide. It was nothing like this. So obviously he didn't like it. So I look at that. But I still sold him one at a cheap price, obviously. But it was a lost leader. So, yeah. So these are ones I've talked about, but the slide in the wrong order. All right. Now, I always think quality, not quantity. People are like, I've got to do 4 VZ packs. I've got to get this money in. You're on the wrong direction. Look at the quality and the quality of service you're providing first. It's got to be priority. Everyone said we do a good repack, and we all do a good repack. It's what we're trying to do. But how do you let your customers know you do a good repack? How do you let them know you want to charge more? Right, now let's shoot forwards on that now. I'm catching up on my slides now from the ones I missed. Sorry about that. Right, so these are the summary. All right, we've gone to it now. Do your research. Have you got a backup plan? If you charge more, will your customers accept it? If not, should you keep a certain price for those customers? Should you put it up for a different type of customers? If I'm doing a drop zone equipment and they send me 20 reserves, I'm like, I'm going to give them a discount. I'm going to give them a price. It's regular work, but I can check all the safety notices and all the kit because it's the same rig all the way through. So I'll look at where I can reduce the time and I'll price accordingly, and you go from there. Have a diary system. Do your time management and work out the pricing for the amount of time you put into the work. And value your own skill. Are you an electrician? Are you a plumber? Or are you a mechanic? Charge your price accordingly from there. Have a unique selling point. Why should they come to you? I mean, when I see an advert and it says, yeah, we'll arrange to have your reserve collected, we'll bring it to our workshop, we'll pack it and we'll ship it back to you and you can have all that in a week. And I'm like, well, that is a service. That's a service you can charge a premium price for. So why aren't your prices higher? You know, because now they've got to travel to you, they've got to pay to travel to you, they've got to take time out of their day to travel to you. So for that service, you should be able to charge a premium just for the administration side as well as everything else. I like that, and it's a nice service. Oh, and it's insured. Wow, bonus, you know, and you don't have to pay the extra on the top and go from there. So there are different things, which some good unique selling points I've come across, which I really like. Have a backup plan. Your plan might not work, right? But know your worth. And when I say have a backup plan, if you're going to put your prices up by a fiver, you don't really need a backup plan. You're not going to use many customers, you know. But do you contact them 2 weeks before their reserve repack is due? Why not? You know, if you don't do it, then they might not come back to you. They might go to somebody else. So, you know, keep in touch with your customers. Okay, so that's me. That's the talk. There are some slides I've missed. I'm on Facebook. I've got a website. Anything you want to know about me, you can ask and go from there. What's funny enough is I've got a little clip here now I want to show you. It's a bit about my rigging nowadays is very different. So I can do rigging for film work, and this is a quite where we need to remove the harness on a container, replace it from soft hardware, rubber hardware, to aluminium hardware. So I said, okay, let's redesign this container, let's cut it up, and it's for a film job. So when you're in the studios fighting, you've got no metal work on you. When you're in the wind tunnel, you've got aluminium hardware, it's different. So I came up with a new rigging system of how we're putting the kit together. So I now do film rigging. Of course, on film rigging, I can charge them a lot more than a 45-round repack for doing this. I charge them a daily rate. You know, my daily rate's expensive, so they pay for all this extra work. And we do something different. But obviously, I've got to make sure that that kit never gets out into the real industry. You know, it wouldn't go down well if you found yourself with aluminium hardware, or you'd notice the rubber hardware, but not aluminium hardware, and you go from there. So I do things differently. I do the average rigger's job still, but I do things for the film world now, so I have to look at it slightly differently. But I always look at what could go wrong. Am I insured? Have I got a risk assessment policy in place? All right. Now, cutting aluminium hardware is really easy. You know, they just bolt crop easy. You try this with stainless steel, it is hard work, right? You're trying to cut stainless steel off. So using scissors to cut up your hardware, oh yeah, it's really easy, you know. So I do something different to everyone else, but because it's different, I charge a premium price because I'm saying nobody else is doing what I'm doing and going from there. So I just want to show you this so you can move on, do things differently than everyone else. The frame of mind people have got is, and I've heard this 4 times this year when I've asked them why they charge what they're charging, customers won't pay more. They will pay more. I guarantee you they will pay more. So why are you accepting, oh, I've got to compete with them because they're charging 45 quid? I'm sorry, 2-hour repack job, 22 quid an hour, absolutely no chance. I can't live on that, and you're not valuing me, so I won't do it to that. So you've got to find out where you fit in, but have your backup plan. And then we've got any questions on rigging and business, or rigging as a business, which is what it really should be. No? Just my history, my viewpoint. Thanks for listening to me. Any questions you ever got, just come back and let me know. I'm willing to answer and talk to anybody, especially if I've got a beer in my hand. Thank you very much. Cheers.